When the world gets weird and the bills get thick, you call on Clint and you feature Dick. One talks numbers, the other talks slick. Two dads, one mic, yeah, this could stick. Clint's crunching figures straight to the point. Dick's just here to laugh in the joint. It's the Clinterific Show. Featuring Dick. Dick's quick with a joke. Clint's got the math. Together they'll balance your checkbook and your laugh. They'll talk finance, fun, and fatherly fails with liquidity dreams and 401k tales. So grab your coffee, join us a ticket, the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick.
Never mind. We don't need to fight right now.
And welcome back to the Clinterific Show.
Colin doesn't need to see mom and dad fight like this.
Yeah. I would like to welcome everybody back to our 32nd episode of the Clinterific Show with Mr. Dick and our guest interviewee this week is Mr. Colin Krueger. He is a what?
I said indeed.
Oh, sorry.
Indeed.
I thought you said he's a pimp, and I was like, oh, okay.
Putting a slide before I decided to fall straight.
Yeah. No, he is a senior software engineer for
That is correct.
Microsoft. So he is in the thick of it with this whole AI fad thing and computer programming and things like that. So yeah, stick around and we're going to talk to him about his job, why he decided to go into this, how many sacrifices a day he makes to our AI overlords. And yeah, so yeah, this is a special episode this week. We're gonna theme it called Over the Hill because my 40th birthday was yesterday, and so now I am old as dirt. So, yeah, we're gonna do some birthday themed shenanigans after our interview, and then we'll talk about some interesting tips to save you some money that apparently I knew about that people have no clue about. So yeah, stick around. So anyway, to get started, welcome to the show, Colin. Yeah, do you want to give us just a little bit of background for you, like what so obviously you work at Microsoft.
Well, first of all, I got to say hello to the gentleman. Clint being over the hill now, you old goat.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Stay late.
Thank you.
And then Dick Dickerson, man, it's been 15 years? Long time, dude. Can't hear you, by the way. You're still on mute. Is this COVID? Is this 2001?
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Mr. Dick is always giving me a hard time because I can't get my microphone and stuff to work, and now he has the shoe on his forehead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, sir.
I have a very temperamental cable for my mic here, and I can't twinkle it at all, or it Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good thing that this organization hasn't gotten high enough to have sexual harassment lawsuits, because the equipment would definitely be at the front of the list.
Yeah, it would. It's okay. We can always throw it out and buy new ones.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, tell us just a little bit about what you do for your work with the tech giant known as Microsoft.
Known as Microsoft. Yeah. So yeah, like you were saying, I'm a senior software engineer. And also just sort of there. It's interesting, senior. So outside of this industry, there's once you've hit senior level, that's like peak level before you're like C level or whatever. Well, in our industry, there's like junior, senior, principal, partner, like all these other levels well above that. So like I am essentially like a max. I'm at the top level of software engineering without having to deal with projects and software that spans multiple organizations within Microsoft.
Oh,
So
okay.
Microsoft really, if you look at it, is a company of companies. So they own
Right.
GitHub. The Office org is legitimately its own billion-dollar corporation, so to speak. Like each one of these businesses is, multiple billions of dollars of revenue. This is all public. You can go look at it in all our earnings reports. But so like I'm sort of at the classical senior level, and then above that there's principal spanning multiple orgs and just kind of goes up from there.
Okay.
So it's like when you get the title that I have, it's like technically you've done everything you can technically outside of having enormous impact. So that's kind of what it means in terms of title, just so we're kind of clear about that.
Okay.
And then because it's different. And then sort of like day to day, a lot of my work now revolves around AI. So when I joined Microsoft, I started grad school just a few months later at Georgia Tech and got my master's in machine learning.
Oh, you're a
So I kind of
bulldog.
worked through that.
Right? Is it?
A
Is that
busy
it?
bee,
Wait, what?
the buzzy bees or whatever they
Yeah,
are.
Georgia
Yeah,
Tech
I think
is
it is.
the
Yeah,
Yellow Jackets.
Yellow
Oh,
Jackets. There you go. Something like that. Yeah,
I don't pay
something. I
attention
don't know.
to
Something
college
2023.
sports in
The
general.
University of Georgia is in Athens, and they are the Bulldogs. Georgia Tech is in Atlanta, and they are the Yellow Jackets.
That's it. Yes, that is.
He used to live in
Well,
Atlanta, so he
actually,
had to know the distinction. well, actually, guys.
Ricky always knows. He's the
Ricky,
sports
are you still in the
trivia
land of the
master.
Cornhuskers?
Hmm?
Are you in the land of the Cornhuskers?
I am in the land of the corn. I'm back in the land of the Cornhuskers now.
Zach.
Been back for about
Nice.
3 years. Yeah,
Okay.
He lived in
Nice,
California
nice,
for a
nice.
while,
I did.
made a lot of bad
How was
decisions,
that?
and now he's back where people aren't insane as often.
The best decision I made about California was leaving.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a great
seriously?
place to be from.
I'm
So
hearing that
yeah.
more and more these days.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So you're basically like one notch below getting to leadership, really.
In a very real way, yeah. You generally don't ever see senior managers at all.
Okay.
They're usually like principal and above. Sometimes you do, like when they're on that transition thing, or there's a very obvious path that this person is going in that direction. But usually it's like principal and above, from what I've seen. So there's kind of like two tracks. Like historically, the way to more money and influence has been through management, but within Microsoft, there is sort of an independent, or historically has been an independent contributor track, which is sort of the vein that I fall in. And so a principal, you're still having influence without directly being a people manager. So you may be over multiple projects at the same time. You're probably working with other principals in sibling organizations, that sort of thing, to have like high impact as opposed to writing code all day or kind of doing more classical software engineering things.
Okay. Okay. So you work mainly with the Azure suite, right? Isn't that's like the online hosting segment of Microsoft, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So if we go kind of back to the end of the Balmer era, um, people started to notice, hey, we can host things in things like Rackspace or these other companies, which put a bunch of servers into a big building and you could lease time from them or lease resources. And so Microsoft got into that game and like, we're going to do that too. We're going to start a product called Azure. And that became what's now called the Cloud and AI organization. And so it's, yeah, we have Oh man, I wish I came to this call with remembering some of those numbers, but I think we're in more than like 20 regions around the globe.
Oh wow.
So we're in like 8 different regions in the States. We have 1 or 2 in Canada. We have 2 in the UK area. We have a couple in India. We have some in South America. So we have all these different regions, and those are all connected with very fast networking. So if you want to write a tiny application that runs in our South Central data center for your business, you can actually do that. And we'll behind the scenes we'll provide redundancy. We'll make sure that there's multiple power companies delivering power to that data center. If you're storing information like your documents and stuff like that,
Okay.
we'll make sure that's stored across multiple things. And we're just we're everywhere with Azure, and also highly secure.
Okay. Interesting. So,
Oh yeah. Also, I have to say, I do not speak for Microsoft. I forgot our social media policy. I do not speak for Microsoft. I work for Microsoft. So
this is purely
everything
information.
I say now is like my own opinions, and not the opinions of my employer.
Well, you got to be careful because
Nice.
you may have our fan get mad.
Yeah.
But
Ted from down the street. Like,
yes.
that dude did me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah. I'm gonna get some hate mail on this one. So okay, so that is interesting because I know that a lot of companies have been moving more of the traditional locally hosted accounting software. I mean, not accounting, just software in general has been moving more to being hosted online, so you can access it whether it's through your computer or through your iPad or mobile phone, things like that. So I would assume that this industry has probably evolved quite a bit in the last 10 years. Because you've been doing this stuff for about, what, 15, 16 years now?
16 years. Yeah, 16
Yeah.
years now as of this year.
Okay. Yeah, so that's,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
you have a good amount of
I
experience with the enormous amounts of change that had happened technologically since then. Because, I mean, if you think about, like, okay, 16 years ago, what was that, the first iPhone? 2010?
Yeah.
Like, think about what your phone is capable of now. It's got a hole punch. And you have 150 megapixels and battery life that lasts for hours.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, when I started, so in my first startup, I actually took them from Rackspace to Azure, for our hosting.
Okay.
And at the time, it was like 5 services, and you had a very specific way of running your software in there. And now there's like 100+ services,
Oh, wow.
and you can get very tight and close about exactly what you want to do, or like really easy way to do things, or like really advanced. So it's like the world has completely changed in cloud computing. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that if you're doing anything enterprise, it's a very hard sell to do it locally. There are reasons, you want to air gap something, you don't want it to connect to the internet at all. But I mean, cloud is the way.
Yeah. Well, and the advances that they've had in security probably makes a significant difference on that end as well. Because, in 2010, if you told me, like, yeah, you're going to save this online. No, I'm not. That's going to get stolen immediately.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that leads me to my next question then. So, at what point in your life did you decide, hey, I'm going to go into software development? Like, is that something why did you decide to pursue a career in this?
There's a bit of an interesting story there, and there's a long story. Maybe that's for another time, or maybe now. Whatever.
Hey, we've got time. You don't have to give us the full, your entire life story. But if you want to give us a truncated version, that's totally fine.
We got until you start
That's totally
spacing
fine.
out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There we go.
We have as much time as you have.
Ricky just falls asleep in his chair.
I probably would, yeah.
Yeah, so like the gist of it is I wanted to do aerospace engineering ever since I was a kid. So my uncle worked in, I believe, counterintelligence at Wright-Patterson in Dayton, Ohio. And so he was an aerospace engineer and had all the top secret security clearance and all that kind of stuff now.
Okay.
And he did counterintelligence and anti other people's planes sort of stuff.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's really cool. I want to do that. And I've been
That's
into
pretty
planes
cool.
since I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
And so like marching down that path, ended up going to union, starting pre-engineering. And I was like, I'll do electrical and mechanical and then do aerospace type of thing. And I did that for like 3 years. And I realized that I wasn't really a good fit with the other engineers. So like you'll
Mm.
notice there's specific temperaments or kind of how their personalities are. And I'm just
Okay.
like, I'm not that. I do not fit in here. I fit in more with the CS guys and one girl. And
Yeah.
and I was and eventually I was like, Mom and Dad, I need you to be honest with me because they had given me a long leash, so to speak. You know, like I came from a very sort of sheltered environment pre-college, and then I had all the freedom in the world and went a little crazy for like 2 years. And
That's what you do in
and I was like,
college.
I need you to be.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Like it
gotta
wasn't traditional crazy.
You got to
but it was
sow
crazy.
those wild oatmeal cream pies.
Whoa.
Speaking
that
of
was a
oatmeal
little
cream
more-
pies, we're looking for sponsors, little Debbie.
I'm going to say that this show is not traditional for them, but anyway, let's.
Yeah, that's accurate. But we're beggars can't be choosers.
Right. Not sure they're the ones begging, but anyway, Colin, please continue.
So I had a convo with them, and it's like, well, we kind of always saw you going into software like your dad, and I was like, thank you. Like the other thing is like I come from a family where there are several very high achievers. Like my cousin's an astrophysics PhD, and he's had like did he have something on Hubble? It wasn't on Hubble. It was on another one of the satellites. So like some people who were very accomplished. And so I
Okay.
thought like moving away from engineering was letting myself down. And so like that
Mm.
really kind of took me working through some stuff. And then but eventually chatting with them, I was like, and my cousin actually talking to me. And so I switched to CS and kind of never looked back after that.
Okay.
Hmm.
Interesting.
CS is computer science, by the way.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You have to assume that Ricky doesn't know what you're talking about.
I knew what he was talking about.
Well,
but for the
I
sake of-
didn't.
For the sake of our one viewer.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to inform the viewer.
Yes, the viewer.
So okay, so that's interesting. So so you did 3 years in electrical and mechanical engineering? Did any of that transfer at all to software?
It does. So there's an incredible amount of math and engineering. And I actually have a math minor because of that. It was strictly
Interesting.
because of
Okay.
my 3 years in engineering school.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have some of the higher levels of math. So if we look at formal logic, so how do you actually be logical in a grounded way that's provable? Not like I am being logical by saying this and doing this. Like, no, how do you prove that you're being logical in how you're viewing the world and how you're doing this versus that or this and that together? So that sort of the foundations of logic and math are the same thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that higher levels of math is very transferable because that ends up being the origins of computer science.
Interesting.
And yeah, and also some of the classes that I took, for instance, digital logic, which is how do you build circuits that are digital versus analog. That's all the foundations of computer science.
Hmm.
So in some ways I have had a significant advantage over traditional CS folks because of that. And in other respects, I've had a little bit of a detriment because of how we did course transfer. I wasn't exposed to certain things that traditional CS folks were exposed to. So it's been interesting. I'm like, why don't you guys get this? Or why don't you girls get this? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like, this is foundational. And they're like, Colin, why don't you get this?
Right.
So it's been interesting.
Yeah. No, interesting. Okay. So, it kind of sounds like you did something similar to what I did, because I started out college in construction management. And this is I don't even know if I've told Ricky this story. Hilariously enough, I was doing construction management. My first semester, I was at the Northwest Arkansas Community College. I was going through all the classes and stuff like that, and I was intending on transferring to the same school that you went to. But I stayed here for my freshman year out of college. I took like Western Civ. I think I took a college writing class or something like that. And then I took trigonometry. And it was probably, at least to some portion, because of the teacher being so terrible at what they were teaching. But I made it to the first test, which was like 2 weeks in, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. And so I had no idea what I was going to be majoring in. But I talked to Aaron at that time, and he recommended that I look at management, like just, business management, small business management. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It's something that at that time I was like, it'll transfer into something that I want to do. And then when I got up to Union the next year, I took my first accounting class, and I was like, well, I hate math, so I'm going to do accounting. Which is what's funny, because most people are like, oh yeah, you must be really good at math. And I'm like, like most of the math that I do is like third grade level. I can multiply really well and add and subtract, but once you start throwing letters and brackets and absolute values in there and cosine and tangent, I'm out.
Yeah, no thanks. That sounds awful.
Yeah. So
what do you find the feeling about accounting? Like when you transferred, what made you stick with that?
Well, honestly, it was just because it clicked. It was one of those things where, like, I took my first, it was a principles of accounting class. It was my, I had only had 9 credit hours transfer up to Union when I went up there. So I was basically still a freshman, even though it was my second year out of high school. But that was the first accounting class that I took. And I don't know what it was about accounting, but it just clicked in my brain. And it's finance and accounting and stuff like that had always been, at least to some extent, interesting to me, just because I'd always wanted to understand money in some capacity. And so when that class went so well, I was like, well, I think this is what I'm going to do. So I actually added it as I was going to do a double major because at Union, the curriculum was basically like, I think there was like 3 classes that you had to take separate that didn't line up exactly for both majors, and you could graduate with a double major. And because of the weird schedule that I had with the classes transferring in, I was like, well, I'll just do a double major and I'll do it that way. And after I took my first year of accounting classes and stuff like that, that was when I decided, well, I'm just going to switch and do completely accounting emphasis, which at that time I was intending on just going and taking my CPA exam, because at that, the requirements were way more lenient than they are now. But it's kind of funny. So we were talking about this a few weeks ago. I was talking about it with my wife, and apparently like 70 to 75% of accountants and CPAs are 65 plus and going to be retiring in the next 5 years. And so when we started talking about that, I was like, well, they had changed the requirements for your CPA exam pretty much across the board for all states, because a CPA license is, for those of you who don't know, it's a certified public accountant. It is a state exam similar to the bar exam. So if I pass my CPA license in Arkansas, I'm licensed in Arkansas only. Now I can go to, so for example, I live close to Oklahoma. If I go over to Oklahoma and say, hey, I have my license, they can give me a, for lack of a better term, it's like a CLEP test, where it's a very truncated version of the CPA exam, because I already have it in one state and most of it transfers, but it's just like, okay, we want to just make sure that, what you have in that state is good enough for what we require in this state. But at I believe it was around 2009, they changed the requirements for the CPA from being, you just had to have 18 credit hours in upper level accounting classes to requiring 30 credit hours in upper level accounting classes and at least 150 total credit hours. And so it went through the roof, because I was just going to go take the exam and start working my sophomore junior year at the community college, and they changed all the rules, and I was like, well, I guess I've got to go do this stuff now, which is how I ended up going to JBU and graduated there. But I have all of the requirements to sit for my CPA exam, and I'm working on getting all the requirements in place and getting confirmation that all of the credits and things like that I have with my transcripts are approved with the state of Arkansas, so I can go sit for the exam hopefully in about the next year. Because it's a pretty serious exam. There's four sections that you have to take, and they're pretty significant as far as difficulty is concerned. I've heard them being compared to the bar exam for lawyers, so it's nothing to scoff at. So,
what kind of time frame does it take to sit in that testing? Is it like a full day thing? Is it multi-days? Like, what is that like?
I don't know for sure. I've done a little bit of research on it, and I believe that it's percentage based. So once you get to a certain, there's not like you get a better grade for doing more, or you get more of a CPA license for getting all of the questions right. I believe once you get to a certain point, if you've passed it, it will just say that you're done with this section and that you've passed. Or if you're not getting enough questions right, it'll keep going until you get the full amount of questions for each section. But I don't know definitively on that. That's just what I've researched so far. So.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm working on something like that, and so it's just interesting from a perspective of like how you ended up in the career that you went to, because we had Kristen Borth on a couple weeks ago, and it's the same kind of situation, when you were, because for those of you who don't know, Colin and I went to high school together. He was in the same class with Kristen and I, so yeah, we were talking about, how her career developed and why she ended up with what she was. And it's interesting to me to listen, now that we're, all approaching or already hitting the 40-year of age mark, and finding out why people decided to go in the careers that they went into. 'Cause that's not typically a conversation you would normally have from that perspective. So yeah, that's awesome. I mean, listen, with the conversations we've had and with what I knew about you in high school, I actually would have expected you to go into something that was very math centric. So when you said you were doing software engineering, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Whereas, we were talking to Kristen, I was like, when you told me what you did, I was like, that is the furthest thing that I would have expected for what she was doing from what I knew about her in high school. So yeah, the next question I have is, which, we're a financial themed podcast. And so one of the things that I am curious about, and I want you to talk about this from a salary perspective with the engineering as a software engineering as a whole, but also from a perspective, because I know you have a little bit of experience in this as well, from a startup company perspective, because software engineering, from what I hear and what I've seen, seems to be it seems to be kind of a unique niche in careers that startups are significantly easier than it is to do, because when you're manufacturing software, what do you have to have? A computer. If I'm manufacturing cars, the amount of capital that is required to go into something like that is exponentially higher in a situation like that compared to developing something with software. But you could strike gold and make the next Facebook or Spotify or whatever, and be a billionaire overnight because you know how to code. So just talk about it, because I know you have some experience in the past with a startup that you worked in. So just kind of, what kind of salary ranges are you looking at going into this, like starting out, where does it kind of plateau? What do you think people could expect, from especially now with AI becoming the monster that it is, and impacting coding, because I'm having personal experience with this myself, with stuff that I'm working on, that like software is changing significantly now with AI and what these chat bots are capable of doing. So
Yeah, 100%. So kind of speaking to your first set of points, what has been unique about software is that, yeah, the cost minus hardware. So let me actually go back. So my dad's first computer, which they bought when I was, I don't know, 3 years old or less or something like that, was $10,000.
oh my
So that was in the
goodness,
80s.
which adjusted for inflation is 4 million.
Because
and we're not that old.
I believe it was $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like some crazy number like that. And so there was in the very early days, there was a cost impediment, but then the advent of the personal computer
Mhm.
coming from IBM and democratization of that, sort of the when yeah. Anyway, drove the cost down, and then then the internet came out. And so those two things together, suddenly you could write software and you could give that software to anyone to use very readily. So this ability to go from an idea to something that ships and has real meaningful value to someone, like there was nothing like it. And there hasn't been until now. And so if you have something that can create a lot of value, and the cost of duplicating it is nothing, you suddenly have enormous impact. And that's the reason why historically software engineering has been a very good path to moving up into the middle class, sometimes above middle class. There's just a lot of alpha there to take advantage of.
Right.
And what's sort of unique about going on right now is that sort of we're going through another industrial revolution with AI, and now software is not the limiting factor, the ability to write it and write it well. It's the ability to have the right idea, to push on that idea yourself, and then to get it to people yourself. Where a lot of what the big players in software industry have been able to do is they establish ecosystems. You go to Apple and you use all their stuff. You go to Microsoft, you use Word, Excel, in 365. You buy into the ecosystem because you have one place, you have one cost, your stuff just works together.
Yes.
And now with AI, just the ability to go after the big players on your own is really there. And so just like, to comment on that, like part of what we're doing within Microsoft is being like, we'll give you a path to do that and stay in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
So you can come in, you can use our M365 product, you can build agents that sit on top of your data, it's secure, it uses your controls, and you can get that out for yourself in your enterprise. So that's kind of like Microsoft's play there.
Okay.
But the same is true for someone just using, ChatGPT or Copilot. Copilot being our first party product. Yeah. So that's a little bit of information there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
then to your second point, like with respect to income, so it historically has been actually very regional.
Okay.
So I'll give you what I started. When I first got out of school, I was making $43,000 a year
Okay.
in Arkansas.
And that was
Now, if you were
2012?
over in that was 2010.
2010.
That was
Okay.
2010.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, but if I was in California, if I was in New York, if I was in Redmond, significantly
Oh,
higher.
yeah.
Significantly.
Yeah. Right.
And so there's been a regional component, and then thanks to COVID, there's been more of an equilibrium. If you do happen to land a job in San Francisco or New York, you still are paid more, but not as much as what it used to be. Because it used to be like it was like multiples,
Okay.
and now it's more like in
Like
shooting
20%
distance.
more. Yeah.
Right. Because
Exactly. Yeah.
COVID made remote work cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really told people you can get work done anywhere. Like there was a lot of the old guard around management who said you had to be here, and if I'm not watching you get stuff done, then that's not good enough.
Yeah.
But COVID finally taught enterprises things that we on the ground have known for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, like, yeah, I've been able to work remote. I've been working since 2010, and I call in sick, but I can still work from home. Like that was 16 years ago. You're just telling me that they just figured that out during COVID? No, I'm not buying it.
Yep, exactly right. And so it's been as the incomes continue to go up, continue to go up, and then as we head into COVID, everything became digital
Mm-hmm.
because it had to be. So everyone was locked down, everyone had to work from home. So now there was huge demand side for software. So what does that do in basic economics? Drives the prices up on stuff. So it also drove up the cost of labor. And so incomes spiked really hard for folks who played the game right during that
Okay.
period. And what's now happened with AI is AI is the super force multiplier, but it also equalizes a lot of the advantage that traditional people just writing code had. So you spend a career learning how to do this, learning how to do it well, and suddenly, you go to Copilot, you go to ChatGPT, build me a website, make it secure, integrate with this auth system, and suddenly it vomits out something that, especially with the new models, so like GPT 5.6,
Yeah.
Soul, very
Yeah.
good model, use it every day, use it through Copilot. It writes very good code, and it can spot a whole heck of a lot of things that you don't spot. There still needs oversight, still watch it, still like, I want you to do it this way because I have some wisdom, but man, it can do a lot. And so what does that do from an economics perspective? Well, that pulls the cost of labor down. So people just doing traditional software, they've seen their incomes decrease.
Okay.
But people at the very highest end, people who can really figure out how to deliver the value themselves, really doing cutting edge stuff, really having those 10x multiples for building things, their incomes are very high.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's raised it is lowered the floor, but it has definitely spiked the ceiling.
Okay. Okay, so that actually does bring up a question before you dive in to the startup a little bit. So, from an AI perspective, because you've got 16 years of experience in software development and coding and things like that. How has this looked from your perspective since the advent of AI? Looking, I like one of the biggest metrics that a lot of people use is the Will Smith eating spaghetti video generation. Like with that first one where like it's just straight up nightmare fuel with watching like his mouth move all over his face and his eyes are looking all over the place and so that was when it first was able to create a video at all to what they're capable of creating now. And it's not been what 3.5 years since that happened, and it's insane how far these things have come so fast. From a coding perspective, when you say, I want you to help me, write this code, I want you to help me come up with code to do this or do that or whatever, is this now to a point where you're like comfortable giving it a lot more freedom with the coding that it creates? Or is this something where you like, okay, I'm using this as kind of it gets all of the basics out of the way really quickly, but I do the fine tuning myself? Does that make sense? Like, what are you looking at it from that perspective now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I will respond to that by how things have changed over the last 10 months. So there was really a step function, meaning we're on some sort of trend, and then there's a jump.
Okay.
So there was a real big step function when Opus 4.5, 4.5, 4.6 came out last year
Okay.
by Anthropic, which you can go through Copilot.
Okay.
And it suddenly was very competent. It could do a lot, it could ingest a lot of your stuff, and it would really help you write your software faster. You could delegate more to it, like write this function, write this behavior that works with my website. And it was a significant step function. And we've seen a series of step functions there since then as well. So it went from internally our lawyers saying you can essentially have fancy autocomplete of your code, like write line by line by line. You can only accept 3 lines at a time. You have to review it no more than 3 lines at a time because we're concerned about copyright infringement, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Or intellectual property infringement. It's gone from that to these are a completely other beast. This is a distinct intelligence that's not human, and we treat it as such.
Okay.
So I'll delegate like, hey, I want to build a system that does this. Let's strategize about different options that could be like. And I bring sort of domain and historical expertise of, yeah, I know this will fit, or this is really what the direction that I want to do. And then so we'll go through a planning phase. And then for each part of that software that we're building, we'll say, break this down into chunks, build each chunk, validate each chunk, and we'll set up guards and stuff like that for it to work through.
Okay.
And it all gets delegated. Like, so concretely, I went from fancy autocomplete toward the end of last year to basically writing only about 100 lines of code since January, but generating thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code. So like just the way we operate now is different. Like I haven't called myself a software engineer since the beginning of the year.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not what I am anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I bring that expertise to do it, but I'm more of like a manager of this intelligence and someone thinking about where it could go and what it should do.
Right.
And that's my job now.
Interesting. And it's kind of fascinating to me to look at it from a perspective, because I'm sure with somebody that has your skill set, you can look at code and say, okay, I can see where the problem is here. Whereas I look at it from a perspective of with the video generation as a great example, because a lot of these softwares, I can just go tell it to, hey, go generate a video about this. And it's like, okay, I can watch it do that. And as somebody who had a picture in my mind of what I'm expecting that to look like after it's generated, and then I watch it, I'm like, okay, you did what I asked you to do. And I'm not saying that it was a bad way to do that, but I can tell you that this is not what I was imagining. And you're seeing some really weird stuff, and one of the things that's so fascinating to me is some of these new video generation softwares and image generation softwares are so inconsistent with the the individuals that are in it. It's like, okay, I want to I want to make a movie using Gemini or Grok or whatever, because I mean, the stuff that they can generate now is mind blowing how good it actually is. especially in the animation realm, like with anime and cartoons and stuff like that. It is incredible, some of the stuff that they're able to generate that would take animators, months to draw by hand, and even with the computer softwares that they were using, and so to see that. But then I look at the live action, ultra realistic models, and it's like, okay, I asked you to make it about this guy, and then I want you to make the next scene. That's not even the same guy. Like, he has 3 arms now. Like, what what happened, and the inconsistencies as far as like it doesn't understand. So I watched a video where it was 2 guys sword fighting, and it was incredibly well choreographed initially. And then what happened, like, one of the guys did like this spin move, and he kind of rotates around where his hand goes behind the camera, and he has a sword in his hand, and it just vanishes. And he spins all the way around, and the sword is tucked into his scabbard again. And it's like, okay, I'm watching that and it's wrong because that could not have happened.
Yep.
But yet I'm watching the animation that it did. It just turned out to be, that was a hiccup that it had, because the logic continuity of the sword swinging around in a circle, it just vanishes. Or like, oh, I shoot an arrow across the screen, and then it switches to the other thing, and it goes above their head instead of, completely missing them. And it's like, wait, they weren't even facing them, kind of thing. So, it's just, I would assume, based on what you've said, that it's probably something like that, where you're like looking at the code up until recently. It's like, okay, yeah, you technically did what I asked you to do. I asked you to recreate Pong. I mean, yeah, this is technically Pong, but is it good? Is it functional? Is it really Pong? No, not anywhere close. It just checks the boxes of what the definition of Pong would be.
That's exactly right. So like, except I'll dovetail off what you're saying with video, but yeah, to concretely talk about, especially the earlier days of AI, is we really dealt with that, where it would technically do what we told it, but not what we intended it to do using the words that we had.
Right.
So like, let's say, in the accounting domain, you had 5 tests of like, if I have this ledger, I should get these numbers out, so you can attest that, so you can like test your custom accounting software.
Right.
And so we tell the AI, make these tests pass, and then you go and take a look at the code, and it's like, if it's this transaction ID, return $45,000, or if it's this transaction ID,
yeah, like.
It made the test pass. It did exactly what you told it, but definitely not what you intended.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I mean, technically you did something that was classified as accounting, but it was this much of this much that I needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, like, we've had to figure out ways to make it not do that, and have strategies to have like another model look and be like, is this what I'm intending it to do? So to like make this concrete by going to the video generation example, if you look at image or video generation example, or image or video generation, you'll see a model taking some prompt, possibly an image, to bootstrap what's coming out. And then it will try and either make that image or make a sequence of images which is smushed together to make a video.
Right.
So in that world, the more you go on with a single output, the more the model can go off the rails. So like,
okay,
let's say in that example, you have a second model that every 5th image that gets generated, it's like, is it consistent for this image to be able to move to here if the sword fighters are spinning around?
Oh, yeah.
So you can have a second model critique what's going on and then feed that back in. And then now you suddenly have a much more consistent output.
Yeah, so that is something that I was very curious on. I'm glad you touched base on that, because I've always been kind of curious about that, and I've never thought about it in any of the conversations we've had. But from a software perspective, is it going to get to a point where like one of these models is so good that it actually is able to start analyzing and improving its own code.
They're already doing that.
Okay, so here's what I'm, because we kind of talked about this. For those of you who don't know, I guess you could say experimenting right now. I just subscribed to Super Grok Heavy.
So usually people do experimentation in college, Clint. You're
Well,
like,
I
you're
listen.
40.
I wasn't into that whole banana thing.
Yeah, well, hang on. We'll do that on another podcast.
Yeah,
okay?
that's for the subscriber, or the what do you call it when people pay you for OnlyFans
The members
section? Oh, I mean
Right,
members
yeah,
only
members
section.
only, members only section.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Members only.
Yeah, but
Don't demonetize
stands.
this YouTube.
right.
Fans of the Clinterific show.
Yeah. But like looking at it, so like I've subscribed to Super Grok Heavy or whatever their top tier plan is, because I'm trying to do some experimenting with some of the agentic software that they have, and I'm playing around with the idea of making my own accounting software and just seeing what kind of functionality I can get out of it and things like that. And as I'm working through some of this stuff, I'm trying to stop thinking in the traditional, this is what I'm used to seeing perspective, because like I'm going to use like QuickBooks or FreshBooks or any of these other accounting softwares. Those are traditional accounting softwares that are largely based off of old and archaic and antiquated systems of, I had a ledger that was paper in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s. That was how accounting kind of evolved, was, okay, everything's on paper. Okay, well, what are we going to do to fix that? We're going to put it all on a computer. Okay, well, what they did was they literally just took this ledger that they have on paper and they just slapped a carbon copy of the exact format that they had into a computer. And so now you have a digital piece of paper that's what you're doing your accounting work on. And so that evolved into things like Excel and spreadsheet softwares, where all of this information is stored in a huge data table. And so they're like, okay, I have all this information designed to flow from one big data dump into this data dump, and then that flows into this master spreadsheet, and I have a profit and loss or a balance sheet that I made from that information. And obviously it's evolved since then, and now it's gotten to the point of where it's, QuickBooks Online, where a lot of it's, more intuitive and things like that. But I'm trying to look at it from a perspective of, okay, let's take what's good from that system, because obviously accounting is a system of check, debits and credits. There's balance. It has to have balance. Keep that. Let's not throw that out. But why do we have to have just another clone of the 50 accounting softwares that are out there that all largely look the same way? Let's break the mold and throw it completely out and do something different, even if it doesn't look the way that we're used to seeing it, because it's more efficient. So I'm trying to think about it from that perspective, and having, ChatGPT or Grok or whatever system I'm using at the time actually analyze its own information and coding and say, okay, this is not the most optimized way to do that. These are the 5 things that you interact with the most. So we're just going to automatically say, hey, this is going to go into your dashboard. And you have a dashboard that has the 5 things that you interact with most. Oh, well, I never would have thought about that. Why would I think about that? Because I'm used to if I want to do a journal entry, how did they do that in the 60s? They went to their ledger and they said, okay, this is what I'm putting in this account, and this is what I'm putting in this account, and it's going to flow through on the paper over to here and blah, blah, blah. And it just has evolved, slowly since then to turn into okay, the only thing that's different now is instead of me writing with a pencil and paper, I just type it in on a computer, and that entry goes onto a ledger, which is basically just a 2-column spreadsheet. But let's look at things differently. Let's try something that's not not the way that it's been done for the last 50 years. If it doesn't work, who cares? I can Etch-a-Sketch everything, throw it out, and try something brand new and have a software that's functioning in, an hour, apparently.
No, like 100%, dude. And the same thing is going on in Microsoft, and it's an interesting struggle. So like, as we're going through these big changes, the old ways that things have been done in the old world, and I'm not using old in a pejorative way, I'm just saying just before now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sticky. And they got that way either because they worked or because certain things were painful, so don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's not even the best way. It's a way that worked and was
Yeah.
optimal in a sort of way.
Yeah.
And when we're looking at new businesses or reinventing industries, there's two things at odds. One is how you get existing people with existing knowledge to step into the software or whatever it is, something even besides software.
Yeah.
And know what to do very intuitively. So like coming from a paper background, you open our software, it's like, oh yeah, it's this, and it uses the terms that I use, and it looks like this, and I go here, and it's intuitive, which
Mhm.
means it respects your history. That's all intuitive really means.
Right.
And then with sort of these really fundamental changes, there's an opportunity to do things completely different, to be a maverick in some respects, and do things that are, multiples optimal, like 10 times faster, 10
Yes.
times easier to get stuff done. But then you're fighting, how do you get people to use your software because it's not necessarily intuitive to them or familiar. It's like, why would I go there? I'm going to take all this work to be able to learn this. I have more important things to do. So there's definitely a tension between those two things, and we've seen that throughout changes for a very long time. I mean, like even going to the original iPhone, since we've talked about that a little bit, the original versions of iOS used a design philosophy called skeuomorphism, which just means the digital thing that you're looking at is meant to look very much like a physical thing.
Yeah.
So like you kind of have Rolodex. Your little keep notes look like a little leather thing with a paper sticking out because it's like something you're familiar with.
Right.
And then if you look at the iPhone of today, you have this glass bubble thing, your customer base.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's literally what they've done.
Yeah.
Over 18 years or however long it's been around.
Well, it's like the floppy disk. That's the symbol for saving something now. And kids are like, I don't know what that is. That's the save button. Yeah, what does that represent? It's a floppy disk. What's a floppy disk? Well, back before the internet existed, you had to save something on a floppy disk that was about this big, and before that it was about that big,
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
I call it the digital icon.
Yeah. Yeah, and your credit card, if you have your credit card with the little chip in it, that probably holds more information on it than that floppy disk did back in the 80s, which is what's even more insane.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the funniest thing I've seen with that, sort of like the entirety of what you need in a credit card is about the size of what's in your here. To actually be able to connect the stuff. And someone took that and they put it in a fairy wand. So they would go, go through in the store and then go.
I love that. I've seen a couple different people do that. The ones I like are the ones where they take their credit card and they turn it into like a Charizard Pokemon card, and all that stuff. So it looks really cool. I was like, man, I'd like to do that whenever I have a ton of money to just throw away on stupid crap.
Right.
Awesome.
Oh man, yeah. But that is funny. Like, yeah, I'm gonna create a magic wand that has my credit card information in it. Hopefully, I don't lose the wand. Excuse me. But yeah. So that's fascinating to me that your industry is evolving so much to look at things differently, because it's it's like you're saying, the world has evolved so much in the past year. It's incredible to me how much has changed from what these systems are actually capable of doing in such an incredibly short amount of time. And so I really do feel like so many people who have access to this stuff, even the free models, they don't even use them, even try to use them. It's like so often when I hear somebody talking about AI, they're like, "Oh yeah, I chat GPT'd something like they Googled it," and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so you asked it like, "Oh, how many people live in Mongolia right now?" Okay, yes, you can do stuff like that, but you're using it for the very bare minimum of what it's actually functionally capable of, especially now. And it's interesting to me that I think there's going to be a bigger gap that's starting to form between people like yourself who are actually tapping into the higher echelons of what it's actually capable of doing, compared to the people who are literally using it as just Google 2.0. It's like, oh yeah, you answered the question better than Google did, you know. Even though Google's, implemented their own AI into the actual Google search feature.
Yeah.
So, you're still getting access to it there, but it is very interesting to me to see how people do and do not tap into this for more than just like, oh, I'm looking for a simple answer. Like, no, I'm going to use one of my use cases for it as an example. So, one of the things that I like to do, which I've been working in Excel for 25 years now, something like that. I started, we took our first Microsoft Excel class in Excel 97 or something like that, it was eternity ago, and it's evolved so much since then. But I can build a spreadsheet with some of the most complex if statements, and I can do basic levels of I guess you could call it coding inside of Excel and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
With Visual Basic and stuff. So I know how to do all of this myself, but the speed that I'm able to change the parameters inside of something like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot is just so much orders of magnitude faster that I can almost be responding to the information and changing it at the same time. Whereas before, I still know how to do it. I can still load up Excel and spend 9.5 hours making the same thing. But the thing is yes, I could do that. But rather than do that, I'm going to tell, Copilot, hey, I want this. And in 30 seconds, I have it. And I'm like, okay, this is most of the way there. This is what I want you to fix. Throw this out. Put this in. So on and so forth. And it's just done. And so it's taking all of these enormous amounts of information and logics for, what do you have to do to create an if statement in Excel? What do you do to make a pivot table in Excel? How does this information get stored? Even from a perspective of like, hey, I've got this bank statement and I've got this download of the files that are in my, my accounting ledger. I want you to do a quick comparison and find all of the ones that are missing in my accounting software. And it's like, oh yeah, it took it 15 seconds. Yes, I can do that, but if I can have it done in 15 seconds, where's the question there? You know what I mean? So it's just really interesting to see that there's starting to be this gap between those of us who are using it, even if it's half of the potential of these, these chat models and things like that, versus people who are just, basically using it as a terrible calculator, which is, I don't know if y'all have seen this trend. It is it is just hilarious to me. It's steal your friend's phone and go to their calculator and look at the last calculation that they did. Like, because like all the calculators have like a history of what, like, the last equation you did, and it's like, oh, that was like 4 + 4. Are you kidding me? Like, you're relying on your calculator a little bit too much. But
Gosh.
but yeah, so from that perspective, it sounds like you're saying that, you're using, AI as in a general sense, to leverage what you're capable of doing. So do you look at it as it's capable of doing like fully completed, ready to launch code? Or is this more of it's getting me like, 60, 70% of the way there, and then I just fill in the gaps kind of thing?
So I kind of bringing it. I will answer that question.
Okay.
But to even provide more like emphasis on what I'm about to say is, I have not written more than maybe 100 lines of code since January.
Right. Yeah.
So like, it is very good. And if you set up
Okay.
systems to reflect on what's being written, and you kind of guide it, make sure that it's like following policies that we have, that sort of thing, you can build things that are very ready to ship. And in fact, there's a big initiative in my org to use what's known as spec-driven development, which so Microsoft has a framework called, or it's through GitHub Spec Kit, and there's other specification systems, and they'll hook into Copilot to our competitors into their systems too. And you essentially work with an AI to define everything that you would like to do and how to do it, and you essentially go through a planning phase. So the very oldest ways of doing software at scale was kind of what's known as a waterfall approach. You go and you literally plan for 6 months, and then you get 50 people to work through this gigantic specification that's probably only like half right, and then you get there and you ship the half-baked software because you did way too much planning.
Right.
And then that sort of evolved into what's known as Scrum or Sprint, which is, we know directionally where we want to go, but we're going to break that up into like 2 or 3 weeks. And so we're going to do a little bit of planning, and then we'll go work on that, and then we'll reevaluate and do it again. And
Okay.
so this sort of spec-driven way of doing things is a lot like that, where I'll spend 4 hours talking to an AI about what I want it to do, and then it goes and churns and churns and churns and churns and churns and revalidates and compares it against what I said, and
Okay.
sort of these things that it need to hold true. Churn, 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 churn. There's multiple AIs looking at it, and then you've accomplished what would have been a week's worth of work for 4 hours of your time and a bunch of tokens.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
that's like been a big shift, is because you can't quite tell it like, just go do this, because companies have brands or they have systems you need to hook into, and they have ways of doing things.
Okay.
So like, we can't, as a big corporation with a lot of legacy, we can't just say, just go build it. But we
Right.
can go through these planning phases, provide guardrails and checks and
Mhm.
balances, and then suddenly it can do things that are absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I am curious to know if you don't know this, that's totally fine. Because I've just recently been doing some level of research into it, but I don't understand it very well at all. From a token usage perspective, so like if I'm using, one of these higher end models to do the agentic work that's starting to be toted by all of the bigwigs in AI, they talk about token usage and the cost and things like that. what does that translate to from a, like, what's some kind of metric that I can use as a understanding of what that actually means? Because it's like, oh yeah, I think Grok or something like that is like $8 for 1,000,000 tokens or something like that. And so, like, it quantifies it from a dollar perspective, but what does that mean from a, is that a lot of work? Is that no work? Like, what is the output from each token or 1,000 tokens or whatever that I'm getting for that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So like you've been able to see the dollars and cents, but what are these tokens? Like why do we even have
Right.
them? And like how does that translate to work? Like that sort of thing. Yeah, that's a really good question. So fundamentally, and I'll use the word intelligences, these intelligences are just kind of sitting there doing nothing. And they can take in, well, instead of tokens, we'll use the word words. They can take in up to so many words, and they can emit or give out so many words.
Okay.
So in the case of large models, you can feed in up like 1,000,000 tokens plus. I think some are even larger. I'm not sure. Um, so let's call that words. Let's say it's 1,000,000 words. So you
Okay.
can feed it up to like half a freaking dictionary, and it can emit up to an eighth of a story. And the way that these intelligences work is it can take in that information, it can emit information, so it can spit out words, but then it looks at the words that it spit out, and that becomes part of what gets fed in.
Okay. Yeah.
So it doesn't sort of really have an understanding of what it just gave you as output, so you kind of have to feed it back in.
Okay.
So you can't really like feed it a dictionary and expect it to do something meaningful because you need to give it that information back. You told me this, you told me
Right.
this, you told me this. Like it has the memory of a goldfish
Yeah.
unless you give it the memory.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so
I
if
see
you
what you're
look at
saying.
how you're built, it talks about input tokens and output tokens or generated tokens. So, and that's trying to quantify, given this much inbound information, how much information did you spit out? Sorry, this is like, it's very hard to explain and
No, no,
and,
no.
and
This
Dick is
actually
getting
makes
really
way
bored
more
over
sense
there.
than anything I've read so far. Because I've just been like, yeah, I don't like it says that it's doing work. I don't know what that means. Is that this is how much the electricity costs and we're just charging you for it? Or this is, this is what this costs, or yeah, like what you're talking about. Because some of them have like a plus or minus thing where it's like, plus 1,254, and then right after it'll have like a dash or a hyphen or whatever, and then it'll do like minus 356, and I'm like, okay, I'm sure that means something to
Ah,
somebody, but what does that mean?
sure. All right. So, and that's a little bit different. So there is like sort of what your build with those inputs and output tokens. You have things you can feed in and they can vomit stuff out, but you have to tell it what it vomited out. And then if you're using a coding harness, like a Copilot, like a Codex, like other competitors, um, and all of them that I've seen, they all tell you edits they've made. So if you're writing a website using Copilot and you're using Copilot CLI, build me a website, have it use single sign-on, make it beautiful, and tell stories about credit cards and fairy dust.
Okay.
Um, the plus 6,000 and the minus 200 and stuff like that, what it's telling you is in the files, in the program that it's writing, that it put onto your hard drive, it made this many updates that were new. Generally, that's highlighted in green. So, like plus 6,000,
Okay.
it made 6,000 edits, and minus 200, it removed 200 things.
I
So,
see.
like maybe it's like this part of the code really doesn't need to exist anymore. It's really part of this other thing over here now. So
Mm.
I'll remove that. So that's a sort of a way of telling you the meaningful work of writing software that it did. It went and made those updates.
Okay. Interesting. So that makes way more sense. So the only other question I am curious about your perspective on, you're talking about it having, essentially to some extent a feedback loop. You put in an input, it gives you the information, and then to some extent it has to take that as part of what is essentially a conversation between you and the model, so it can know how to create what it is that you're looking for. Has that gotten to a point, because I know that you can get code that is incredibly inefficient, just like I know that there's a way to improve upon code. I know when I was building some of the stuff in Excel, you can have it run, and you can create the sequences to go in a certain way. And when I did it, the first time, I would run the sequence, and it would take 5.5 minutes to run the whole sequence. Okay, and then I go through and I improve it, and when the final product's done, it went from taking 5.5 minutes down to like 22 seconds. Are these models getting to a point now where not only can they make better code, but are they able to go in and reevaluate? If they make a program and say, hey, this is just not an efficient way to do this, this is a better way to do that. Scrub all this other stuff. Let's do it this way, and it's going to be 9 times faster than it was previously. Because I know that's a lot of the problems with some of the stuff, because you're looking with enormous amounts of data, and you've got to deal with data compression algorithms and stuff like that are based on my understanding, you're losing some form of information through that compression process. And so, just to be able to we don't want to lose that much information. So how do we optimize this so the data can go through faster, more efficiently, spread it out and send it to different locations, have it come in, whatever. I'm just kind of making stuff off the cuff. Is it getting to a point where it can do that, where it makes things exponentially more efficient? Or is this more of a, well, yeah, but it's more of just, you tell it to do that, and it goes in and removes what you want to have taken out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are sort of two things that really come to mind around that. Is that number one is the new models are so much better at writing really good code.
Okay.
Like code that is efficient, that does what you want it to, but does it in a way that's really like quite optimal by default. It's not always optimal by any stretch, but it's just very good. It's the defaults have gotten way better.
Okay.
That's a good way to say what I'm meaning.
Okay.
And then number two is that there's been heavy research over the last many years over how to have some sort of intelligence, maybe not an LLM. How do you get it to do these improvements automatically?
Okay.
So a huge classification of work that actual computer science does, not writing software. Computer science and writing software are two different things. And if you're a software engineer, you generally have exposure to computer science, but computer science really is the fundamentals of how you do things, how you make it accurate, how you do it efficiently, that kind of stuff. That is the science in computer science.
Okay.
That's different than writing software. You can go to a JavaScript boot camp and learn how to write JavaScript. That's different than a computer science degree.
Okay.
And so there's been heavy research in how do we do these things efficiently and do it automatically. So coming out of Google DeepMind, for instance, the AlphaEvolve research project was, how do we write a general purpose system on top of LLM as our intelligence to be able to optimize anything? And so that system essentially will go and try things, it will observe, and it will make note. What of this sort of strategy, how did this kind of play out in practice? And then you sort of do another epoch or another round. Hey, these sort of things played out in practice, come up with some other ideas, use this as well, and now
Okay.
evaluate, is this better or is this worse? And so you do that over and over and over again, and then you suddenly stumble onto things that humans didn't even think of. So for instance, Alpha evolved, one of the fundamental mathematical things you have to do with a large language model is matrix multiplication. So the way that this intelligence is stored and operated on is in giant matrices under the covers. That's just an implementation detail. But they're hyper expensive. Matrix multiplication takes a lot of work to get right. It takes a lot of work, a lot of compute time.
Okay.
It's not easy. So if you can make that faster in any way, that has real dollars and cents and performance impact on what you're doing. And so Alpha Evolve found faster ways to do certain sized matrix multiplication. And that had things that people had not tried before. Like it was very much thought that we have found it all and there's
Right.
no room for improvement. And then like, oh wait, this thing happens over here and we can do this thing. And so it found things. And the same is true for code itself. So you can have the AI generate code, then sort of do brainstorming session, try some things, see if it still works, keep note, repeat, and then suddenly you've done very efficient code to do what you want.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's cool. Huh. Okay. Well, I've learned a lot. Like there's so much complexity to this AI stuff, and I use it a lot, but like not to the extent of understanding, the computer science like you're describing behind it. So, yeah, that was the vast majority of the questions I had. Before I go with my last question, I don't know if Mr. Dick wants to jump in here, if he has any questions for you. He's kind of been zoning out down there in the window for a little while.
This fatigue is hitting me tonight. Sorry, but this is very interesting stuff. Makes me think maybe I need to start looking into how to use these models because I generally stay away from AI.
Yeah, that's what's interesting, and like so many there's so many people that are like so polar opposite. It's like I'll use it and I don't use it for what it should be used for. Like
Sure.
I'm using it as a calculator, and I'm talking about 5 + 5 math, which is insane. And then you've got the people who are kind of like Colin here, who are going above and beyond and actually starting to even and I would say you're probably more versed to know this than I am, but like probably just breaking the surface of what these are actually capable of just because they've evolved so fast. And then, you've got people like Mr. Dick here who are just like, I don't want an AI. We're just over here trying to have a good time. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So that does bring me to my last question then. And it doesn't have to be anything super crazy or personal or anything like that, but I am curious if you have any kind of unique story from your career, like what was one thing that just, it changed your whole perspective about, computer science or the people that you worked with or whatever, or even just like something like I'm never going to do this again because this happened this way. What's a lesson you'd like to share?
There's a difference. I do have some good stories. Some of them are a little spicy, especially from startup days. Maybe that's for another episode.
Hey, we like spicy. Let's go.
I like spicy.
Oh man, dealing with the auto dealer industry, you will see some things over there, man.
Like
but that's for another day.
You're talking about like automotive industry?
Yeah, so my startup was my first one was software and services, social media management, reputation management, software, websites for automobile dealership industry.
Oh,
and
like so are these used car dealers or like
whole gamut?
Oh, whole gamut. Okay.
New, used, boats, Like the whole gimmick.
Okay, yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
There's some spiciness that can crop up in there. But
Competitive
I
market.
think one of the do what?
It's a competitive market, right? The
It is,
automotive industry.
and high testosterone, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
the way business was done, and continues to be done behind the scenes. It's a little crazy. Oh, there are
Nice.
stories about people I've seen with a little
Mm-hmm.
doing their thing.
Ah.
Little bump. Little bump.
Not me.
Yeah.
Not me, but look. Yep. Oh,
Which
man.
brings us to our next sponsor, Astroglide.
That's relevant.
Yeah.
That is relevant.
Oh man. Yeah. But yeah, so okay, you don't have to go into a spicy story if you don't want to, but just
Yeah.
one unique experience or lesson you'd like to share with the viewer.
So I think it's humorous for me because I think it brought a little humility to me. Is that like I'm very much, I don't care who your title is, I don't care like who you are, like I care about what you've done in life, and everybody poops. Like that's kind of my
Yeah.
philosophy, and that's been my family's philosophy. Because kind of like my family, there are people who have borderline mentally handicap IQ to like astrophysics PhD. But we're all family. We all get along. We all love each other, and it's a very flat
See,
hierarchy.
I don't know how to relate
like,
to
that's what I
that
grew up in.
in any capacity because mine is like, a little bit on the retarded side.
I was gonna say
approaching
Clint's on the
Forrest Gump
Clint's
levels of
family's on
intelligence.
Clint's family falls on a spectrum,
Yeah.
but it's all on a
I'm definitely an outlier.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves there, Clint.
I'm on the higher end of Forrest Gump.
The higher end.
I don't know how to play ping pong, but I do like to run, so
he does. Can confirm.
Oh man.
So anyway, so like that's how I am. And I was like, this celebrity worship thing, I don't get it. They poop too.
Yeah.
Like, but at Microsoft, who his name's Leslie Lamport. He is a world-renowned computer scientist. He's an Alan Turing Award winner, which is like the highest level sort of award you can get in computer science. So Alan Turing, Imitation Game, the movie, that guy.
Oh yes, okay.
Yeah, so Alan Turing, Imitation Game, that's the dude, and there's a computer science award from his name. And so Leslie Lamport, world-renowned computer scientist, huge impact. Had a chance to meet him, and I started like not stuttering, but it's just like,
fangirling a little bit. It's him.
Well, I guess that happens to me too.
Yeah.
Factory reset.
Factory reset. Yep,
oh wow.
Exactly right.
Interesting. Oh man. Okay, well, thank you very much for all the information. This was very insightful into the hot button issue of AI. There's so much stuff going on with this anymore. That it's almost inundated our entire society. It's like the internet in the 90s. It's just like, oh, the internet's everywhere, So yeah, we have a couple other bullet points to talk about. So one of the things that I wanted to just touch base on as a friendly little how to save some money, because let's be honest, everything is so ludicrously expensive anymore. I was talking to Anna a couple days ago, we were talking about ordering food, just in general. So everybody knows there's an app for every frickin' restaurant on the planet. But what people don't know, and I don't even know if you guys may be aware of this, there is actually a strategy to ordering food on an application. So I'm going to use Pizza Hut as an example because most people are, in the Uber Eats DoorDash camp right now. And I don't think people have any clue how much that is actually costing them. So I'm going to pull up my
it's
wife.
Expensive.
Yeah, Anna and I did this as an experiment the other day, and I had her do an order. It was not intended to be like anything super complex. It was basically just a little bit more than what we would normally order at like Pizza Hut. So this was a Pizza Hut order. She got on DoorDash and she was like, okay, I've got like a coupon where I get a discount or something like that. I'm going to build the order in DoorDash. And then I recreated that order in the Pizza Hut app. And I'm going to pull up the difference, and I will have this showing on the screen whenever I post this video, so everybody can see the side-by-side comparison of what this actually ended up being.
It's here, right here.
Yes, it'll
So
be
it'll be
over here somewhere.
It'll be over my face.
Yes. I'll put it on both sides of his face. So you can enjoy it from both angles. Okay. So
got a lot of getting an enjoyment from both angles.
Okay. So it was here is what the order consisted of.
Okay.
An order of the cheese sticks. So it's like, the Pizza Hut breadsticks, but they just have cheese melted on top of them. One large pepperoni lovers pizza. An 8-piece order of eight-piece order of boneless wings. A large stuffed crust pizza with a handful of toppings. I can't remember exactly what all was on it, but I think it was 4 toppings. I think like pepperoni, sausage, onions, and garlic, I think was what was on it. And then a large supreme pizza with hand-tossed crust. So that was
you ordering.
That was it. It was just
oh my gosh.
We were just creating an example to show what it would look like for that's probably one more pizza than a family of 5 or 6 would typically get, but it's enough to cover the vast majority of bases for what people would order. The total after, because she gets the discount by ordering it, it removes the there's DoorDash credits that it takes into account, and then it removes the delivery fee if it's over a certain dollar amount. The total before tip was $119.73. Yeah.
For 3 pizzas and some breadsticks.
Yes, 3 pizzas, some breadsticks, and some wings. 119. So if you did a 10% tip, that puts you at a total of just shy of $133.
Jeez, for that price, they better be lacing it with cocaine. Holy crap!
Yeah,
give me my money's worth.
Exactly. So I recreated the order in the app, doing it exactly. Okay. The only thing that was different was that it was not delivered. And hang on, let me see if I can find it. Apparently my phone did not save it.
What the heck?
Yeah, it didn't save it, but it was, including tax, it was $78 or $79.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds better.
And
for that food, that sounds a lot better.
And it had one more pizza.
Oh, what? You had 4 pizzas?
4
for
pizzas. and the
pieces
same
of
amount of
wings,
breadstick or the cheese sticks and the wings
for $70.
for $78.
So I don't understand.
So what people don't take into consideration with these apps is if you are,
it's a convenience fee.
well, it's not. There's a way to order
not.
it, because even if you just go in and order things in a certain way, you can actually, if you know what you're doing, you can actually save an enormous amount of money and get more food than you would if you just ordered the items separately or through like a combo. So one of the things that somebody posted was a receipt from Taco Bell. They were complaining because it was it's not a super complex order. 2 steak grilled cheese burritos, a Crunchwrap Supreme, 3 drinks, an order of the cheesy Fiesta potatoes, the little side, like the little potatoes.
Yep.
And then the Cinnabon 12-pack, $46 after tax. I went and recreated this exact same order. The only thing that I didn't have on there was the way that I did it was I actually added the steak stuff to a different burrito, because the Taco Bell where I live doesn't have that item. So I recreated it as close as I possibly could. And after tax, it was $29. And it actually had more food. There was, I think it was 2 Crunchwrap Supremes, 2 orders of cheesy Fiesta potatoes. It had all of the drinks, and there was one other thing that it had, and it already had everything else, and it was like $12 cheaper. And so I realized that apparently I'm just aware of something that people don't understand, and that's that if you go into these apps and start looking at how you order the food, you can actually get an enormous amount of food for a very cheap price if you look at it from a perspective of what am I trying to get holistically, and not just I want a bean burrito and I want a Crunchwrap Supreme. And I want this, and ordering them individually, which is what most people are doing. You got to find the combos and the deals. So look in the rewards section. Taco Bell, I think it's for every like $10 that you spend or $15, you get a free item. And I get a free cheesy gordita crunch every time I go.
Is this from their app?
Yeah.
You're talking about?
Yeah. All you have to do is just sign up on the app, and I literally get a $6 item for free every time I go to Taco Bell.
Good night.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's, like I said, it's only $15 that you have to spend to get the next reward, which is basically every order that I do.
Right, because you got a family of 4.
Exactly. And that's not even for a family of 4. That's just me and Evie. Because Lincoln, he won't even eat Taco Bell. They don't have chicken nuggets, so he will when they do have chicken nuggets on occasion, but they're not a permanent part of the menu. Taco Bell, put them as a permanent part of your menu, please. Make my life easier so I don't have to go to 2 restaurants every time we go to Taco Bell.
We're open for sponsorships, Taco Bell.
Yes. Oh, yes. I would also like a sponsorship, Taco Bell.
I will eat Taco Bell every week on this show.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. 100%. Chipotle, I'm right there too. Like you want to sponsor us, I will eat your burrito all the time. Oh man. But yeah, so I'm looking at putting together a video that shows kind of how I do this, because I've done it with a bunch of different apps, and they're very good. Like you get the same quantity and type of food. It may not be exactly what you were wanting to order, but it's close enough that it's like, okay, I got 2 Whopper Juniors instead of 1 Whopper. It's basically the same thing. You know what I mean? And it was 30 to 40% cheaper. So yeah. When you're trying to order your food, try to order through the apps. It does make a significant difference. And so many of them have these reward programs where, like Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A has it as well. Every time you order, you get a certain amount of points. They're not nearly as generous with their points as Taco Bell is, but still, every little bit helps in this economy. So
That's true.
Real.
So yeah. Speaking of the economy, that brings us to our next topic, which is what are we looking forward to today or this week or whatever. So
what was I looking forward to last week? You're gonna have to remind me so I don't do the same thing.
I'd have to go back and watch the video because I don't remember. I don't even remember what I was thankful for or looking forward to. I mean,
yeah.
Oh man.
Man. Well, Colin, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah. And just to kind of give you some context, because we didn't really talk about this, we just started doing this recently of like, what is one thing in your life, whether it's job, family, fun, whatever, that you're looking forward to in the next however long, 6 months, year, whatever, however long you want to look forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward. I actually do have something I'm looking forward to significantly, besides the sleep this weekend. So for folks who don't know, sleep issues run in my family. Last week I averaged less than 6 hours of sleep a night, which really screwed me up. Same thing happened last night. So I'm looking forward to a really good sleep this weekend.
Yeah.
I am manifesting a good sleep.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And then, so what I got Ashley, my wife, for her birthday was a trip for the two of us to go to Banff in Canada. Not BAMF, BANFF.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're gonna do that sometime in the next 6 months, I believe.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's
really
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun. What do they have to do up there? Like, is it just like a resort that you're going to, or
nature area? I'm honestly not super sure. I know it's like nature and stuff like that. It's something that Ashley really wanted, but to get out of the country and to go see. I spend so much time in probably a 4-hour drive of where I live. And I'm just excited for something that's significantly different.
Right. Yeah, no, I get you there. Yeah. That reminds me of this interesting story. So I don't know if you watch much on Netflix. Have you seen this new show Tires with Shane Gillis?
No.
You know who Shane Gillis is? Yeah, the stand-up comedian. So he started this show. He got a contract with Netflix to do this show. It's about a failing auto shop that comes up with a scheme to get more clients coming in, and they are aggressively selling tires. And it is a hilarious show. The antics between Shane Gillis. And it's him and his cousin. So Shane is one of the mechanics in one of the branches of this organization, and then his cousin is the manager of the location that he works at. And the antics between the two of them is just it gets funnier and funnier every season. They just launched season 3 like 2 weeks ago, and it is incredibly hilarious. But one of my favorite episodes is called The Rumor Mill, because so the manager's name is Will. His father owns like 6 or 7 of these locations, and he gets information from one of his mechanics that his father is considering shutting down one of the locations, and he starts freaking out thinking it's going to be his location. So he calls to a couple of the other locations thinking that they'll have more information about this rumor that's going around, and he starts asking, he's like, hey, I've heard some rumors going around. Have you heard any of these rumors that are that are like, you know, and have you heard any rumors going on? And he's like, well, not like, what kind of rumors are you talking about? He's like any of our locations being closed or anything like that. And he's like, no, I hadn't heard anything like that. I've heard other rumors. And he's like, what do you mean? What kind of rumors have you heard? And he's like, well, I mean, it is 10 o'clock, so you must be like 5 or 6 chocolate milks deep at this point. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I heard through the rumor mill that you drink like an excessive amount of chocolate milk. like just like 5 or 6 gallons a day of chocolate milk. And so he's like, what? No, I don't drink chocolate milk. And so he goes back into his office and Shane's in there goofing off, and he's like, have you heard this rumor about me? Like any of these rumors going around about me? And he's like, no. Yes. Which one was it? He's like, the chocolate milk one. He's like, what? That's the one that got back to you? But there's this other one where he likes to go to a truck stop, and him and this other guy just go and drink chocolate milk and lick each other's nipples at the truck stop, and he's just like, why are you telling people this? You know, and the guy's reactions are just so like genuine hurt. Like he doesn't expect it, yet it keeps happening, and so it just makes it even funnier. But yeah, this show is incredibly hilarious. So if you ever get a chance to watch it, but anyway, later in the show, they're talking about going to the Poconos. You know, everybody talks about like, oh, I want to go on vacation up to the Poconos or out to the Poconos or whatever. I've heard that phrase used over and over and over again throughout my life, and I just learned like 2 days ago that the Poconos are apparently a mountain range in Pennsylvania and not some exotic tropical island in the Mediterranean. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, why do people always want to go to the Poconos? Like, yeah, I want to go up to the mountains of Pennsylvania.
Really exciting stuff.
Yeah. I just thought that was hilarious because I'm like, I had no idea that's what the Poconos were. It's such an exotic name. Don't shit on my parade, Ricky. I think it's exotic. Oh man.
My mom is still crap because one time, like we were driving through a city one time, and she's like, you know what road's over there? And I was like, it's Frontage Road. And she's like, frontage? Like it's French? It's frontage.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
like frontage.
Frontage. Yeah.
Forever.
That's good. I like that.
Frontage Road. That's telling kids that's what it is, and so that's what they'll say growing up.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think I did remember what I talked about last week that I was looking forward to. Didn't I tell you about the Legend of Zelda remake? Yes, we talked about that. The Ocarina of Time is getting a remake that's supposed to be coming out apparently like 2 weeks before Grand Theft Auto 6, which apparently there's some insane controversy about right now. I guess somebody hacked into the servers at Rockstar and stole a bunch of like I think they stole a actual current state game file, like the whole game, and so they're talking about like leaking the ending of the game and stuff like that. And apparently there's which I was gonna look at it because they're obviously a publicly traded company. I was gonna see if they I swear I am so sick of these stupid search engines changing. Yahoo, you are dead to me. I don't want to use your stupid search engine.
Who's Yahoo?
Exactly. I swear, every time I reset this computer or change something, like, oh yeah, you must want to use Yahoo search engine. No, never.
I hear AI can help you figure out that issue.
Yeah. How do I make this to where it's not a thing anymore?
Hey, Grok, how do I set Yahoo to never be my default search engine? Brock would be like, first step, don't be an idiot.
Okay. Yeah, so apparently he announced that he had the information and was going to leak it, and their stock price dropped.
Oof.
Which it was 246 yesterday at noon, and today at 10:30 a.m. it was down to 233. It's recovered a little bit since then, but apparently people were panicking, thinking that that this information getting leaked would be a significant blow to the sales of the game, which I think
It
the
won't.
price of the game is what's going to impact that. But yeah, the price and the fact that I don't think they're doing physical copies anymore, which is such a thing.
Let's not get too distracted there, Clint.
Yeah,
You and I have gone on rants about this several times.
that's true. We have. Yeah, we don't need to rant about the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Maybe we do. Maybe we do, so they'll start listening.
Well, they'll have to see the podcast for that to happen. So
That's fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
I mean, unless we just struck gold last week, and of the 9 viewers, one of them was from Take-Two Interactive or Sony Enterprises.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Oh man. But I will say the one thing that I get back to what we were talking about is the one thing that I am looking forward to is I believe I am going to Tulsa this weekend with my family as a delayed birthday dinner, because I'm now officially over the hill. As of yesterday, I
Welcome to the downhill side, my friend.
yeah. But we're going over to Tulsa to eat at my favorite pizza place that I can never remember the name of.
Domino's.
No, Angelini's.
Well, you are getting old.
Andolini's.
Andolini's?
Yes. Yeah, Andolini's Pizza.
Okay.
Incredible pizza. We stumbled across it. Anna went over there with a couple people for like a Bible seminar thing that I think my mom and my sister went with her too. Anyway, they went over there to this thing, and it was in Broken Arrow, and they were like across the street from this restaurant. So they went over there and tried it, and they're like, "You got to come try this pizza place." And I went, and it is incredible. They make all their dough in house, and they have the best tomatoes I have ever tasted on a pizza. I'm not typically one that likes to get get tomatoes as a topping only on the pizza. I'm good with like a veggie pizza that has a bunch of different stuff on there, but to be just like only tomatoes, that's not something that I regularly do. And they have, I can't remember what they're called. I'm trying to pull, I've got their menu up, and I'm trying to see what they call them. They have one that specifically has those tomatoes on it. Where is it? I don't know why I can't find these stupid things. They have a pretty extensive menu though, so take me 3.5 days to scroll to the bottom of this stupid thing. No.
Bruh.
No. I'm not gluten free, you monster.
Oh my gosh.
Good grief. Where?
I'm also looking forward to the weekend. It's been a long week.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I'm gonna
You
go ahead
talk about your
because
stuff, because I didn't think it would take me this long to find it.
Anyway, it's been a long week. And yesterday I thought it was Thursday, and that was kind of disappointing.
Oh no.
Yeah. So,
Wait, what happened?
so I was on call this last week,
Damn it.
and we do Thursdays to Thursdays. And
You know,
my
y'all keep complaining
supervisor-
about this being on call stuff. I'm on call all the freaking time. People call me all the time. Hey, my business is falling
Clint,
apart. I need help.
Clint, do your thing there, Grandpa. Do your thing there, Grandpa. Shut up.
He's owning over the
San
hill right
Marzano tomatoes.
Right.
That's it. San Marzano tomatoes. They're a very specifically grown tomato from a very specific place, and they're incredible. Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Continue with your story.
They grow them in a very special place that they buy them from Walmart in. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, if they could get them at Walmart, I'm going to go to Walmart right now.
Like right now?
Yes, like literally I'm hanging up and going to Walmart.
Marzano tomato.
Are you freaking kidding me? They have them at Walmart.
now. Now, Dick, are you a paramedic?
Bye, Clint.
No, he's not a
Me?
paramedic.
Yeah.
No.
Are you a paramedic? Is that right?
No.
What are you, Dick?
So I started a new career a couple of years ago, and I work for a local MSP.
Managed service provider.
Yep.
Is that right?
And
He was
yeah, that's right, man.
he was a dean. They called him Dick the head dean.
It was technically Dean Dick. Thank you very much. Not Dick the head dean. It was Dean Dick.
Dean Dick Dickerson.
That's right. That was me. Now I tell people to turn
When
their
one
computer
dick
on
isn't
and off
enough.
again.
He's the head Dick.
Oh man. Anyway,
You go get your tomatoes, Clint. Go get your tomatoes.
I'm sure these are not as good as the ones that but it says they're certifiable. So,
You're certifiable.
of course. What other way is there to be?
Anyway,
Okay, so you're looking forward to this weekend because you had a bad week being on call.
well, I was on call this week, and it's like it always seems like when you know the on-call engineers are like, "Oh, we got this issue you need to look at," and I look at it and go, "This is stupid, and it does not really require my attention at 10 o'clock at night." So
I
good
realize I
times.
interrupted in the middle of him telling you what he does. He's in IT support now.
Yes, but I'm a team lead now, so I don't do as much troubleshooting anymore, which is kind of nice. But
So
yeah,
he leads the guys who do the IT support.
I do. I sit behind and crack the whip. That's my job, whip cracker. Which is funny because that's my. Let's see. Not very often. There's quite a few of us, so it's only like once every couple of months. So
Same.
it's not bad, but yeah, my supervisor took me off the on-call list on. We use Slack, and I messaged her. Was like, wait a second, I thought I was on till tomorrow night, and she's like, I thought it was Thursday, and I was like, no, it's not. Tonight's Wednesday. Sorry. It's been a long week for her too. It's been a long week for all of us. We've been getting slammed lately with issues, so and this may be surprising, but we're actually understaffed. Shocker.
Is it because of the heat? How hot is it up there right now? Like 15?
We work like what? We're understaffed because we work in a building.
No.
Like, we work in a building. Like, it doesn't matter what the temperature is. We're understaffed because we don't have people.
Yeah.
I reach through this camera and punch you right now.
Ricky, I gotta keep you awake sometimes. Like you're sometimes you gotta wake up a little bit. You know.
It's because your voice puts me to sleep. It's so
Yes.
soothing.
I know. I have one of those voices.
One
Oh,
of those
man.
voices.
Well, it's in the effort to let Mr. Dick and Colin here get some level of sleep tonight. We'll go ahead and dive into our going deep with Dick segment. So yeah, Dick, do you have anything deep for us this week, or is it just like a little tickle?
I mean, we can get in just the tip kind of thing, It's
okay. We'll do just the tip with Dick this time.
Yeah. I had a series of shorts, Colin, that I called just the tip. Anyway, it was good times.
Yeah, you need to start doing those again.
I should. I need to put them on like
TikTok and Facebook,
OneDrive or something. Maybe you need to give me the creds for TikTok.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I can put them up on our TikTok. Yeah. Oh man. All right. So just a tip today, prioritization is a huge thing. I think, a lot of people get overwhelmed when they look at the whole of their duties. I know that like when I look at all the things I have to do, it can be kind of overwhelming. This seems like really basic stuff, but even, we forget it often that when you look at the whole, it's so much worse than if you break it down and say, okay, this comes before that comes next before this next thing, and looking at it as a bunch of pieces that together make a whole makes things a lot easier and digestible than looking at the whole thing. And that applies to so many different things in life, not just like work, in life and stuff. And just like, we get too hung up on the big picture. Like having a big picture is a great thing. And I know like there's a lot of people are like, you got to lock in because you're going to be this awesome, you're going to have this transformation, or you got to lock in, you're going to be the big cheese. And it's like, well, that's a big picture thing. Big picture things only happen when you take care of the small things.
Yep.
So take care of the small things.
Just for the rest, for the viewers that haven't listened to us very often, Dick does not normally say whole that many times.
I'm having some latency issues or something.
And we're back. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties.
Clint had some technical difficulties.
For those of you who don't normally frequent this show, Dick does not normally say whole 46 times in a matter of 2 sentences. So
going for a new personal best.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that one of my favorite sayings I've ever heard was the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And it really is true. Like it's and I've been coming to understand a lot of these idioms so much more as an adult. As a husband and as a father and as a business owner and things like that, stuff like that it's like, oh yeah, well, I never cared about that in my 20s. Well, yeah, I didn't because I didn't have to. And now I do because I'm geriatric and I've got to figure out how to pencil in time for me to go get my prostate exam, So
if you knew what Ricky and I just experienced, you went from robot voice cutting to prostate exam. That's exactly what
that is all we heard. It was all kinds of garbled nonsense, and then prostate exam.
Wow. Like, so I'm still cutting out.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
you're better now.
Is it better now?
For this moment.
Okay. Well,
Dude, that's wonderful.
Wow. Well, so I don't know what our recording is going to show. I can hear you guys. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but
okay. We can. Yeah.
At this moment, we can.
I would assume that because this software is on my computer, that the latency is only affecting you guys. So, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Do what?
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
The story though, we didn't get it.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's going to be our episode for the week since we're starting to have some latency issues. So hopefully it'll be real fun for everybody hearing me wrap up a sentence with prostate exam.
Prostate exam.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic Clint.
But yeah, thank
Or
you very
my
much,
dad
Colin,
called
for joining us this evening and you know,
Yeah, dude.
educating us on the intricacies of AI and how that's evolving so much, because I do definitely feel like I have a much better understanding of, you know, how tokens work and you know how that industry is evolving incredibly rapidly.
Yeah.
And how that can possibly start impacting people who are considering going into a field like that. So we really appreciate you coming on board, and if you ever feel like coming back,
Taking the time, yeah, man.
Yeah.
There he goes again.
Yeah, it was fun, dude. It was fun.
So anyway,
we'll have to have you back again at some other time when Clinton gets his latency issues figured out.
Probably when the heat stops being so hot.
The heat, yeah.
No,
Right.
like it's been like 105 degrees here for like a week, and the internet starts sucking really, really bad when the temperature's that high. I guess it's the static in the line or
Obviously.
something like that. But
You should get that checked out.
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you everybody for stopping by, and we will.
I really want to see what the playback on that is. Like.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'll try to get it posted tomorrow so you guys can watch it.
Okay.
But yeah,
definitely going to be looking at that.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for stopping by, and remember that today is another day. So go out there and make it a
great one.
There we go.